I spent the last 15 years helping car dealerships create a better business online, learning from the best in the industry. The real question is, how can I help you do better in this fast-paced environment? This podcast is here to give you the answer. Join me as I explore, learn, and share marketing strategies you can apply in your store right now. My name is Mark, and welcome to the Autobahn Academy podcast. All right, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Autobahn Academy podcast. So this is a repeat episode with Sam Lalonde from Matador.ai. And if you recall, we met a few episodes ago, so we did a quick intro about what Matador is actually doing. But right now, I'm super excited because we, together with Matador, we mystery shopped over 1,000 dealers, okay? 1,000 car dealers, trying to understand what's really going on when a customer, like a prospect, submits a lead. What's really going on after that? How are we doing the job as an industry to help car dealers choose their next vehicle? So, welcome back to the podcast, Sam. I'm super glad to have you today.
Thank you. Happy to be back.
Awesome. So we got a few subjects today, so I want to keep it short and sweet because there's a lot. But is there anything you going through those 1,000 dealers, what like struck you the most, and what did you find about what we're doing right now, like as an industry, answering to car customers?
Yeah, so we had a big question as to how dealerships were actually handling new customers, prospective customers coming through and submitting leads, one on their website. And then also we took I think, a unique approach where we also Googled their car gurus and submitted a lead through car gurus. And we had an assumption that dealerships were being pretty inconsistent with their lead handling, especially when it comes to personalized text message follow up. And what we found was, well, one, we found that it's actually true that dealerships are pretty inconsistent with their follow ups. But what we found was, I think, pretty shocking. Now, there was one good statistic in that overall dealerships are responding about 65% of the time to new leads coming through their website.
Okay.
And like that's I think I would classify that as like an okay statistic. I
Yeah,
think in
2/3. It's not bad. It's not
it's
gonna
it's
be
not
worse.
bad. It's not amazing. I think in an ideal world, I think that the follow up should be at 100% for obvious reasons. Um, but I think where things really became surprising was like more than half of dealers are not personalizing their text messages, and we had a really low bar for the definition of personalization. And for us, that definition was: are you at least responding with the person's first name? Like, hey, Bob,
Okay.
saw your like, are you still interested in vehicle? I think the next level of personalization would be like, hey, you're interested in the Camaro. Like, can we book you for a test drive, for example? More than half of dealers were not doing that, and I think that was really shocking for us. Um, then we also looked at whether or not their dealers were doing redundant double opt-in messages, and pretty well, I think it was like 80% of dealers were doing double opt-in messages. And really, I think that's an important point because, um, sending in like, hey, are you sure you can text that? Like, we can text you. It really kills the conversation
Yep.
and
Yep.
that flow to the conversation. You really want to have um, someone who's shown interest in a vehicle, and then you're responding back and making it personalized, and you want to have it fast too.
Yep.
Um,
Can you expand for like someone who wouldn't know what is a double opt-in? Can you explain under like 30 seconds?
Yeah, so there are some laws in the United States that state that you can't message someone unless you have explicit consent or
Mhm.
implicit consent, but you need consent to send someone a text message. With that, for a double opt-in message, say when you're filling out the form, on the best example here is Car Gurus. Car Gurus has some fine print on the form that says, by submitting this form, you're giving us permission to send you a text message.
Yep.
when you submit that form, you don't need to send a message saying, "Hey, can we have your permission to send you a text message?" Respond with yes or respond with stop or no. Um, that's the double redundant, double opt-in message right there. Since we know that they've submitted the lead through CarGurus, there's no need to send that message for permission since we've already got that permission.
Okay, got
And
it. And
and
what about like what about dealership websites? Since are you relying on, like, let's say car gurus, it's fine. Let's say like someone has a car dealer and their website is with dealer.com or like another website provider. Is that an issue or is it not?
as long as the fine print is there, you should be fine. And with Matador, we can make sure that that double opt-in messaging and that compliance, the TCPA compliance, is all there. And we do that. Our customer success team always works with dealerships to make sure that everything is in compliance when using
Okay,
our platform.
okay, awesome. Okay,
And there is also one last note here in terms of SMS stats. And these we've done as of today, and this is still an active project that we're doing. We've done over 1,100 dealerships, and like our goal is to hit up every dealership in the US. And so far with those 1,100 dealerships, we've done um, many dealerships in Florida. We started in Florida, expanded to California, and we're now doing Texas and Illinois. And we're also going to be expanding into Canada just to see what's going on in Canada as well,
yeah.
just for curiosity's sakes, basically. Um, but I think the most important thing here is, and this is really glaring, is the lack of follow up. Only 36% of
Hmm.
dealers are following up with their website leads, and I think that's massive. And like that's just, you know, so many dealers will have, and this is on their website, responses coming back and automated for that initial response that might be coming from their CRM, whether it be like Dealer Socket or eLeads or what have you.
Okay.
Um, but then there's no follow up, and that's I think where dealers are really missing, like dropping the ball here, is that follow up. And it's so easy to forget as humans the follow up process, and I mean it's we all forget, and
Hmm.
the reason why we did these mystery shopping and this mystery shopping experiment was to see how big is this problem and how can we best be addressing it. And this is where and we'll talk about this later, but this is where we developed out Matador, and specifically what we call superhuman as well.
Okay. Let's do a recap just to make sure I understand. Okay, so 60, let's say like 2 out of 3 dealers get a lead and they'll follow up with text. Okay, all not like not all of these will be personalized as like as using the prospect customer's first name. So that's one thing. But when you say like 30, is it 36 or like only 36% all are following up? So do I understand correctly when you say that you're telling me 2/3, almost 2/3, are not sending a second communication with customers? Is that it?
Yeah, that's right.
That's crazy.
It
That's crazy.
is, and I do want to say that the dealers who do follow up are pretty good with their follow up.
Yeah,
Um,
it's all or nothing. I think, right?
Yeah, it's like
So
you're either not following up, or in some cases we've received, because we've been doing this for about a month and a half now,
yeah,
and with the guys who are really amazing with their follow up, I think we've received like 15 text messages over the month and a half from when we first started. And
yeah,
we know from our own customers that like it sometimes takes that many
it
messages
does. It
to
does.
follow up. So
Yeah.
um, the ones who are following up tend to be very good, and congratulations to them. But unfortunately, that they're almost no one is following up.
Why is that from your perspective? Is it because like either they tried it and they realize it's hard, maybe the staff change at some point, maybe the structure change, or they don't believe in following up, maybe. You know.
From Yeah, from the customers that that we have now, these are of course, dealerships who have identified this as an issue and are using Matador to be able to improve their operational efficiency.
Okay.
But from the customers that we have spoken to, um, it's just a simple issue of like the calculus of how many leads they're getting. You might be getting anywhere from 3 to 4 or 500 leads in to your BDC, and it's just the volume is so difficult to manage that it's easy to um, not follow up and um, really only chase after the lowest hanging fruit and not
Yeah.
do that consistent follow up. And that's what we've been seeing. And then of course there are issues with staff changeover, training new staff, and all of that. And so that's where I think we're seeing issues as well.
Yeah. It's obviously that's one thing I see through Autobahn Academy, right? Just trying to see to understand what dealers are doing and not doing, and why they should be doing it, why it's important, and the difference when they do it. But I think the follow up, it could be like boring for some salespeople for sure, because you're under the impression that you're talking by yourself. From SMS, email is the same thing. It's even worse. Email is even worse. But when you really go to distance, you really see the difference it makes from all your perspective, all your operations. Because you guys, like car dealers, you're putting so many dollars out there to like to market your brand, market your product, and then you got to do everything you can once you got a prospect. Because I had this conversation on another episode with someone else, but when you get a lead, that's not the end game. That's the beginning of it all, right? Putting dollars on Facebook, on Google, on the website, it's that's the easy part from my perspective. When you get a lead, you got to make sure you put everything in place to make sure you follow up with those people, answer their question, their concerns, address their situation, whatever it is. And I think SMS, and you guys nailed it. I think SMS is one of the best way to do it because the open rate is so high. You get the lead. That guy or that lady could be shopping somewhere else. If you're really active on SMS, you got the edge. So
Yeah, one of the things that we believe in is that if you're able to have more meaningful conversations, you're going to sell more vehicles. And we're
yep.
trying to we are automating the processes that create more conversations that then end up at the end of the day selling more vehicles. And by adopting simple processes and automating some of these processes with regard to follow up, you can then one have consistent follow up and not be dropping the ball and be maximizing the lead quality and maximizing your marketing budgets for those leads that are coming through. And you know we have stats specifically with Florida, but it can take on average up to 21 days for the full sales cycle from lead engagement, where that person goes to your website, submits that form, through to full vehicle sale. And that's, you know, it can take up to 5 hours for an average dealership for lead follow up, and that's by email, text message, Facebook Messenger, WhatsApp, what have you.
You mean work hours? You'll spend like an average of what,
Well,
5 hours.
between the time you get the lead in to the actual follow up, it can take on average 5 hours for a dealership
Yeah.
to respond to that and also have a response. Then for the appointment confirmation of like coming into the dealership, doing the test drive, it can take then up to 2 days for that to happen. But then after that appointment confirmation, it takes on average 1 week for that walk in to at the dealership. And then after the walk-in, it's still about on average 1 week till that vehicle sale, and that's right. That right there is 21 days, and that's if you're efficient in doing it well. But we've been finding that we can reduce it down to 15 days for that for the inventory to move out just by having that consistent and automated follow-up process through text message.
Yeah. Like you know what? I don't know why I just think of this, but like, tell me if I'm crazy, okay? But we're talking about like 21 days, 15 days, 60 days to purchase, whatever, okay? But it seems a lot when you like break it down to actually working man hours. let's say it takes 21 days, but in reality, the salespeople or the BDC agent will not be addressing that prospect for 21 days time 24 hours, right? It might just be they might just invest, I don't know, an hour's like 30 minutes or maybe 90 minutes, 120 minutes for a deal to come in. So that's a pretty good hourly rate if you ask me when you sell the car at the end, or if you generate a profit at the end of the line, especially if it's supplemented by a tool as powerful as yours to bring that amount of working man hours down per deal. Does that make sense, or am I just going crazy here?
Yeah, that makes sense, and it does make sense, and I think where where the whole process really becomes derailed is the like in that follow up process, like there are so many questions to be answered, right? Like, um, is there a promotion on right now? What colors do you have? Is it like do you have it in red, or can I get it with a sunroof, or what's the financing on this vehicle? All of these, what are really pretty simple questions to be answered, but a lot of questions to be answered.
Yeah,
And
a lot
say,
of back and forth.
yeah, exactly. And when you're also handling say 400 leads, or 1,000 leads at the same time coming through, it's very easy to forget about the conversation with Nancy, who
Yep.
was now talking about financing, which is like getting really close to finally getting them to come in, and just completely forgetting about it because I don't know, you went to lunch and then you came back and then a new lead came through and you just was actively pursuing that one. um, that's where we see this huge drop off in follow up.
No, it makes sense. It just makes sense because it's a volume game at the end, and I understand, and I work with dealerships, and I understand why we're dropping like some leads into the mix, but that's a mistake. That's a huge mistake because of course you can cherry pick and get like the first 72 hours are crucial if you ask me. There's a big difference. There's a big drop off after that, but it's that it doesn't go to zero. And sometimes that 10, 20%, 30% of leads that would close anyways, if you followed up like the the right way, make all the difference between a like losing money on advertising and conquest versus making money and acquiring new customers at like a rate that makes sense, you know?
Yeah, we,
So,
we we spoke to one dealership in California, and they were not following up with any of their car gurus leads. And so like
because
we,
it's
we
used, right? They'll have bought a car by now, right? Is that it?
yeah, well,
That's,
it,
that's
for,
crazy.
from like, and we called them up and we said like, hey, you're doing so well with your website leads but not with your car guru leads. What's going on here? Because there's inconsistency between how well people do with their car gurus leads versus the website leads, and
Yep.
sometimes it's amazing with their website and sometimes it's only amazing with car gurus. And so it's just like this inconsistent amount of follow-up that happens, and you're paying a lot for car gurus leads. And we said it's like what's going on here, and they actually had no idea that they were not following up with their car gurus leads, and they like the leads were getting into their CRM, but for some reason it was just getting lost. And that we were happy to identify that for them, but then it's a question of like, well, where are the processes to make sure that at least there's that initial follow-up that's happening, so that
Yeah.
way there is a higher likelihood of actually seeing that conversation come through. So those are some of the small and big issues that we've seen and identified with this mystery shopping research that we've been doing.
Yeah. I just keep thinking, isn't it crazy that like guys like us were willing to go the distance and mystery shop like 1,000 dealers with it's a lot of work. Let's be clear.
It
But we still
it
catch
is.
like things like that. It's sometimes just mind boggling. I'm like, you know what? You guys gotta mystery shop your own dealership sometimes. You know?
Yeah, and we've seen that like with some dealerships, we've like some GM dealerships are like, oh, we already have mystery shopping with GM, and it's like, well, are you looking at your text messages and opening up the conversation around that? And
Yeah.
that simple operational question, I think, oftentimes is not questioned or even looked at. And I think from our side, I mean, we're seeing this as a great opportunity. Dealerships are getting all these leads coming through, and I would say that these are low hanging fruit that they can be automating the conversations with these people and start moving more inventory. And I think that's where that's where I think it's clutch here.
Yeah.
I could say that.
Ah, it's just crazy, but like it takes some time to identify some issues, but like obviously some people are willing to do it, and it's not like we're generalizing right now, but it's not everyone that's not doing it. So to go back to these stats, like the bright side is that some people are still doing it. Can you expand a little bit more on um how, like, obviously having a tool is not the and all, like it's not the solution to all problems, right? We still usually need some human interaction. So how did you guys manage to supplement the machine, like your, even if it's AI, even if it's super powerful, how do you guys manage to like supplement the whole thing so it really feels natural as conversations go with customers?
Yeah, so we have a new, I'd say feature, but it's a pretty massive feature for Matador, and we're calling it Matador Superhuman,
Okay.
and it's human powered AI. So this is for responding to questions from customers who are, the pretty like consistent questions of, what's financing on this, what's any promotions this month, what colors do you have, those type of questions, and pretty other detailed ones as well. But what we're doing is we're using um, experienced BDCs. I guess you could call them outsourced BDCs, but human, like experienced BDCs with average minimum 5 years of experience to take the AI suggested responses and
Yep.
actually choose the right one. So we're training through this machine learning model um, the best responses, but using humans to QA every response right now. And we're using this to train our AI to be able to best respond to questions to keep conversations moving on behalf of dealerships. And the best example for this would be, if someone asks a question after, say, 15 minutes, we're then jumping in where the AI is one nudging the dealership to say like, hey, you should be responding to this text message, but then also we're suggesting the best response for that question. And then we're having a human on our side actually QA that answer. And if the answer is good, we'll just automatically respond to that. And we're teaching this AI to be able to best respond in the context of dealerships. And no
It's
one else
nice.
is doing that right now. Yeah.
No, no, no. Of course, and it's pretty cool because in this business we get like like a lot of repetitive questions. So questions about like whether it's the financing solutions or the inventory and everything, but also we sometimes get questions that can't be really answered by machines. So this is why I think this is smart to get a human to come in, because I see it through my virtual BDC. It's the same thing. There's like just stuff you can't predict. It's really specific. It's VIN related. It's really like you got to have a human behind it, but you can automate or supplement a lot of the questions using AI. And I think it's still a pretty deep technology, but still, you know, I think it's smart to do it this way to like one enhance customer experience, reduce I like this reduces wait times a lot. I'm sure people waiting on answers for dealerships, because you'll see someone engaging with the dealership and then the dealer's gonna reply tomorrow. So it's kind of the buzzkill, if you ask me. So this is hard. I understand why it's hard for car dealers to manage that, but it's reality. And people don't really care about us, right? They just want to serve their own interests. and they want an answer to their questions. And if you guys like car dealers don't help them, they'll just try to find the car somewhere else, and they'll be happy to, and they'll be bragging about it. They didn't want to help me, so I went somewhere else. We hear that sometimes. So I think this is smart. But how do you, like, a lot of the questions about AI in any field right now is the difference between, like, if this then that logic versus AI. So if this then that, it's just a set of rules that are set for people to come into. So what's the difference between AI and those kind of set of rules, if that makes sense?
Yeah, so like many people call AI, and then it's only just a database lookup,
Yeah.
and that's not what this is. So let's be clear. So we ask dealerships, we send them, you know, questions, the most common questions that a dealership gets, but then that's unique to each dealership, right? So we get them to fill out those questions, but then, and then we put that into our database. But then when it comes to um, actually understanding what the questions are and then providing suggestions, those aren't just pulling out of a list of predetermined answers. We're actually having the AI bot actually suggest their own responses. And this is using natural language processing to identify the questions that are coming in. But then also with the AI technology that we're using, um, actually be able to formulate a response that is best for that. So, if there's a question of, um, can I come in tomorrow and do a test drive, for example?
Hmm.
Well, it will identify that, like, it will automatically identify, okay, this person is looking for an appointment, and then be able to provide a range of suggested answers off of that. And something like that, it's like, are you available tomorrow? Well, tomorrow could be a holiday, for example. So the AI technology is automatically is able to identify the calendar dates and say, like, hey, well, tomorrow's Christmas. I don't think we can do it tomorrow. Or you know also provide other suggestions as well. Maybe we could do it in 2 days as a response. And this is where we have the human come in and do that test and quality assurance on it, to help train this model, is then to be able to say, like, hey, no, tomorrow's a holiday. And so then with that, then it will say, oh no, that was a holiday, and provide recommendation in provide response in 2 days time, for example. And then for the next response that comes through and it's a holiday, the AI will then start to suggest maybe doing an appointment in 2 days time. And so this is not just a database lookup, but actually, the capabilities of AI to be able to provide that answer. And it's not replacing any human in any way, because we're still using a human to do the
Hmm.
quality assurance on this, but it's just making sure that no conversations go unread. Because it's clear that with our mystery shopping, one, there's no follow-up even happening. So then the continuous follow-up and the conversation is obviously being dropped very easily. We know that. And so this is supplementing the human to be able to make sure that the conversations are not going unread, and to make sure the conversation's still flowing as well. And it
Yeah,
takes two
that's good.
seconds. It's like, hey, do you have a, a red Toyota, whatever? And it's like the answer for that, it takes 1 second, right? But then if you're dealing with hundreds of other leads that are coming through your website, then it's easy to forget about that conversation. And so this is a
Yep.
nudge and a recommendation for a response that just makes that the ability to have the conversation flow so much faster.
Yeah, it makes a difference because between, like, on one end, I understand you're nudging the customer with more information. You're re-engaging. On the other end, you're nudging the car salespeople, the car dealer people, right? So
Exactly.
I think just by doing that, you're reducing a lot of friction and a lot of wait time on both ends, right? Because some people will just um, like just forget to reply to those texts on both ends, right? It's just not just on the dealer side, but on the customer side as well. You might just ask a question about, like, what are you planning to lease or to finance, and someone just reads it in the car, and they Just say, you know what, I'm gonna reply later, and then 4 or 5 hour passes. I think re-engaging with those people is fun, and showing a better commitment to help the like customers as well. If you just keep going at it, finding questions, finding answers to help your customers, I know it makes a difference. So okay. Um, how do you see like what's next for like knowing what we know today? If you want to do a recap of the stats we found, knowing what we know, what's next with Matador for the next few months, or the until the end of 2021?
Um, yeah, I mean, we have so much in our roadmap right now. We're coming out with some pretty cool new features. I think the biggest thing is Matador Superhuman.
Hmm.
I think this is honestly, I think it's game changing for dealers to be able to communicate with new leads as well as existing customers and to be able to automate that process. Right now, we're just piloting this like beta test with 6 of our dealerships. We're going to be doing 10 dealerships, but we're also going to be opening this up to all of our customers um, within a couple of months. And I think that's where dealerships are going to see significant value. We're also working with a lot of different new features for promotions and coupons and different um, uh, features that will be able to get the customers into the dealership as well.
Okay.
Can't speak too much about that, but I think that we'll give you an update next time. Next time we're here and be able to share that. Um, but I think what's most important for us is we've identified this huge pain point for dealerships, and like at scale. I mean, we've done over 1,100 dealerships mystery shopping, and we're seeing it pretty consistently here. There's very little personalization on those first text messages, and there's a huge lack of follow up when it comes to these conversations, and I think that having no conversation go unread is really important, and having those conversations with customers is huge. And I think that any dealership that adopts something like Matador will see an incremental increase in revenue and car sales over month. So
Yeah, that's great. What I believe you guys will be attending Digital Dealer. When is that and where is that? I don't think I caught it yet.
yeah, so we'll be exhibiting at Digital Dealer. It's at the beginning of June in Tampa, and that's June 8th, 9th, and 10th.
Okay,
And
that's all
uh,
right. Few
we'll have
weeks.
yeah, it's coming up pretty quickly. We'll have a booth there. We'll be right across the aisle from the beer garden, so make sure to come check us out if
Nice.
anyone's attending.
And I wish I could come down there. I would feel like Tampa right now. Can't wait to travel again. So, all right. Is there anything you want to add before we get going? Thank you again for coming on the Autobahn Academy podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me. We're going to be publishing all of these stats
Oh, nice,
in the coming days. So if you go to Matador.ai, you'll see a pop up happen or just a notification on the website to bring you to the actual mystery shopping results. And we're going to be sharing all of these stats. And as we move along, we're also going to be breaking it down state by state as well. So
nice.
um, if any dealership is wondering if they've been mystery shopped, they can get in contact with us and we can share the results with them, or we can mystery shop them. We're more than open to sharing the results and how dealerships stack up against dealerships in their state, across the country, or even locally as well.
That's
We're
amazing.
completely open with sharing this data. I think we all have a lot to learn from it, and we'll be publishing it on our website. So by the time this airs, we should have it on our website.
That's awesome. That's awesome, you guys. Yeah, like reach out. Like what? That's Matador.ai, and what's the email they should use if they want to learn more or request a mystery shop or request stats.
Yeah, you can get in contact with me directly, Sam, SAM, at Matador.ai. Or
Yep.
if you just want to reach out to and say hi to the whole team, hello at Matador.ai.
That's awesome. All right, you guys, thank you for another episode of the Autobahn Academy podcast, and I'll see you on the next one. Thank you, Sam.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.